I was not expecting that. I thought Mark would have to dig for that. I thought someone would have to do a second interview to get that information. Back this up. Back this up a little bit here. Let's get some context. Courtney makes good food. It was high quality, but
mother as well, that she's proud of the food she put out. It was very high quality food. I don't know. She changes every other day whether she was abused by this, that, or the other thing. But I mean, last I talked to her was a couple of years ago. I think she had said like she was, proud of the. She did put out a lot of food that I think generally was excellent quality. Even though we did get shut down by the health department, but like
it was high quality food. But we did get shut down by the health department. Sorry, that answers the question that I asked. How clean could the kitchen be? How clean could a Thorp restaurant be? I mean, have you seen their house? I've seen their house. I've seen the video, the House of Horrors tour. I've seen that. That kitchen, that kitchen had to have its fair share of roaches, maybe some rats, maybe some mildew. There's slime in the ice machine, as they would say here back in the day in the Houston. Yeah, man, dude. McKinsey says it doesn't. To be fair, it doesn't take much to get shut down by the health department. Well. They couldn't even meet that. They couldn't even meet that standard, though. I wonder if Mark is going to ask a follow-up question, or if Benj is going to continue talking.
I still think we didn't put out a lot of food that made anyone I don't think we made anyone sick. It just was.
Could you expand on that?
Wait. There we go. Can you expand on that?
What you just said? Could you kind of give us a look into what the issues were with the health department?
Sure, I remember that. That's way down the line. So then I will admit that at a certain point I became burned out. So I had gotten it going, and that was I literally worked from 8 a.m. till it would be 3 a.m. that I dropped the last person off because they didn't have, transportation at night. And it was 7 days a week. And when I was asleep, I was just dreaming stress dreams about the restaurant. So, I'm not like that.
That's
kind of
having
guy.
a business.
I don't thrive on that kind of stress.
Yeah.
And so at a certain point, I just burned out. And, that was maybe a year or two in that I just burned out. I never really, I still did what I needed to do, but I kind of hated it. But so by the end,
some of the, I was just going to say real quick before we move on from the you being stressed, I was thinking back to you say that Courtney was, it goes back and forth between being stressed and it being the best time of her life. I don't know with your legal stuff, would you be allowed to talk about what that dynamic was like with her kind of being in her element a lot of the time? But
wait, you mean we're moving off from the health? Oh man, the health inspection? Oh no, man. It could have been no. Okay, you were burned out, and so what do you mean? Like what was happening in the kitchen when you were getting burned out? You weren't cleaning things the way you should. You didn't worry about sanitation. I didn't know what questions I was going to send to Mark because I didn't even think about this until now. But man, would that have been good? That would have been good, right? Absolutely. All right, let's hear the Courtney dynamic.
You being super stressed all the time?
She was super stressed too, but I think she liked that kind of a job, which is weird because it was very high stress. I don't know what to say. It was, you got all these orders up. I don't know if you ever seen what is it called? Hell's Kitchen?
Kitchen Nightmares.
Kitchen Nightmares with Gordon Ramsay. She was one of those.
Yeah.
And Gordon Ramsay would have said you are an amazing worker, but he would have definitely said there's something wrong here with the bigger picture. You're not bringing, and I get how it's hard to manage people from another culture who don't really speak English, but she was supposed to take care of the back of the house, and anyways, she just ended up doing all the work herself. But
because she couldn't speak to them, she couldn't get them to do anything. Okay.
My thing was when it was clear it wasn't going to get transferred over, I was like, we really got to think about what we're doing here because we were losing $10,000 a month, even though we were selling
$10,000 a month. Okay,
food and we were very popular. You and we weren't even paying ourselves, except that we ate a lot of the food ourselves. So in that sense, we saved money. But it was kind of it's hard to keep. enthusiasm about something that it's just, you know what I mean? It's like, it just isn't. It isn't getting the big boost that it needs.
Okay.
And so we tried various things, but she kind of was like, she didn't want to take a step back and think about it, you know, because she was like, well, I got to get in there. And I was always like, well, what's the point of getting in there if we're just losing money? I mean, it might be better just let it die.
Man, Ben was already willing to call it quits.
But I think she just felt like, well, we've invested so much. And I give her credit for that. But, you know, our life was just a mess. It was just super stressful. The kids weren't being super well taken care of. That's when Grace was largely like sort of taking care of the kids upstairs in this kind of shithole place that I wanted to fix up, but I didn't have time to. It was kind of a capitalist nightmare where you become enslaved to something. And the idea...
Well, that explains Grace's role of being like pretty much a mom to the kids. And now Grace is mad at Courtney for having to have all those responsibilities at the restaurant. How can Courtney be a mom if she has to play head chef and manage the back of the restaurant? You know?
He is like, okay, maybe it'll pay off, but it kind of never did. So,
North 7878. Hey, I'm just repeating what I heard here. I mean, that's what happened, right? Oh man, but hey, there was a reason why they had to crack the whip. Okay. No.
Man, I don't.
Joking.
The dynamic, it was just like, I think she was sort of a martyr. Like, she was like, okay, I'm going to keep this thing going for our family. And I was kind of saying like, yeah, like maybe we got to bail at some point. You know what I mean? And she was just more like putting the fingers in the dike. Isn't that what this thing?
Well, yeah, you can't just quit it. What are you going to do? Are you going to sell it to someone?
Like patching up the, you know what I mean? Just like enough to.
Yeah.
And there were all these attempts that I made to try to connect with other people who maybe could take over the restaurant or automate things so that it was less like manually intensive or like shorten our hours or up our prices. But anyway, nothing seemed to really work until the health department came in. And it was interesting because the health department had visited several times before, but they kind of looked at me like, and I remember there's a black lady who came in and she was like, well, you know, this really, but the thing was we had an almost
hear the voice.
I don't think she ever met the lady.
Me? No, I never. All I knew was there was a random woman and then the restaurant was shut down.
But I mean, here's the thing: we had like
So the black lady was the health inspector, huh? That's also kind of racist, but it's also true. Hey, I'll just say, look, man, for the longest time, I've had state jobs and stuff like that, and I am the minority. I'm like the only dude and the only white guy. You know, that's it.
An all black, technically, we had an almost all black workforce, so it kind of looked like, you know, multicultural and, you know. So I think they looked the other way until this one woman came in who was new. And she's like, oh, we just got to get shut down immediately. Because what had happened that night is the ice machine, which was on the second floor, it wasn't keeping temperature, so it was leaking onto the floor, which was above the kitchen. And so it was like sort of raining in the kitchen.
What? And that happened the night before? First off, I don't think that happened the night before. That sounds like an issue. So they had an ice machine on the second floor, and it was dripping water from the second floor down to the kitchen?
Until this one woman came in who was new, and she's like, oh, we just got to get shut down immediately. Because what had happened that night is the ice machine, which was on the second floor, it wasn't keeping temperature, so it was leaking onto the floor, which was above the kitchen. And so it was like sort of raining in the kitchen.
That water was going through the floor, through the, I guess, insulation or whatever, okay, and going down into the kitchen. Yeah, that's going to get shut down right away. You got floor water that has all sorts of other like stuff in it because how it's going through the walls and all that. I mean, literally the ceiling, and it's dripping into the kitchen. Yeah, that's not sanitary at all.
Which was just, it was clean water. It wasn't like sewage water, but it was like dripping.
The rain?
What's that?
Hey, Ben, I don't think that water was clean by the time it made it to the other side of that ceiling there.
People working in the rain, like in the rain in the
Yeah,
kitchen.
it was like,
Were people continuing to cook?
it was like, it wasn't like pouring rain, but it was like, like you could see drips coming down. And then downstairs in the basement where we had like all the grains and stuff in tubs and where the cooler was, I think there were a lot of slugs on the floor.
They had slugs on the floor.
Because it was super moist down there, and the injera always created humidity. And slugs aren't really.
They had slugs, dude. I'm guaranteeing they had bugs, and they. Oh, okay. Yeah, it sounds like a nightmare kitchen scenario there.
I mean, it's not like they got in the food, but it looked bad, and I think there were also fruit flies around, and the problem was we just didn't have a regimen for like really thoroughly cleaning, and like things go by the wayside. So it was like
did not even have a regimen, a routine to thoroughly clean. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it sounds about right. It sounds on par of what I was expecting here.
Chef Ramsay. Although, like, the core things Courtney did really well. Like, she would take these huge stews and, like, properly cool them. And the Ethiopians felt like the spices preserved the food. True, but not really true. And, like, Western standards are much stricter.
Wait. Where are we going with this? Did you try to preserve the food overnight using spices?
Like a lot of, I don't know if you've ever been like a bodega. It's not the same like cleanliness standard as a 7-Eleven. You know what I mean? So they more had those kind of standards, and they felt like close enough. And we moved enough food that it probably was like okay, but you just have these things like and so the inspector saw it. She was just like, and then I remember in the back. You remember the back parking lot?
Yeah.
There's just garbage all over and not like food garbage, but just like crap all in the back, which I don't
like
know
old
really.
supplies, like tools,
I don't know,
appliances,
broken stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the dumpster was for the food, but it was just kind of a mess. And
Clean your fucking restaurant. Well, what is this? What is this? Of course it got shut down. It sounds like they are describing the RV, the Thorp RV. You're telling me the restaurant got so busted up, so dirty, like that? Wow.
And she was like, "It's a no-go," and they shut us down. We could have still. It's like this weird voluntary thing, but I remember Courtney was like, "Thank God, it's the angel of death, and it's an angel. I'm not doing one more." She was burnt, you know what I mean? And so all that food rotted. Almost all of the supplies we sold for like pennies on the dollar, or just left there. But I totally sympathize with that. Like, we just took a huge loss, and I was like extremely depressed because I kept hoping, you know what I mean? And we were hoping we could buy the building at one point because the rent was crazy. $50,000 a year, that's a lot of money. And then we could have rented out the top 2 floors, whatever. But we were just too tired. So
tired, defeated, and all that. I can't make $1. It's hard to make $1 when your restaurant is a nightmare.